So my idea to give this lecture in English was because, to be honest, we have different view on psychotherapeutic schools in different languages. Do you know, what does it mean? Psychotherapy, counseling, what else? Coaching, correction, psychological correction. So all these terms describe the way how I help another person. And remember the name of our subject?
Counseling.
Counseling, yes. So the name of our subject is counseling. But I mentioned before that counseling appeared actually in last century, at the end of 40s, because Rogers offered the term counsel, so advice actually, consultant, because in Russian counsel it's equal to give advice. Remember, this idea. But when I will be speaking today about psychotherapy, so my idea is the same. I mean, counseling, psychological correction, this term actually we use in Russian-speaking area. It's more kind of Russian-speaking. People say about psychological correction, yes? Familiar term, психологическая коррекция. So I'm not sure that in English-speaking countries they use it. Maybe, I'm not sure. So what I'm trying to tell you, that psychotherapy, counseling, and psychological correction, we will be keep in mind that this is the way how I help another person. Okay, so this is kind of treatment of a soul. If to give direct translation of the word psychotherapy, that means psychic, soul. Therapy, that means treat. Yes, you remember, this is we discussed in our last lectures. And I asked you already this question, how you understand another person. My idea just to show some main approaches that we have now in psychotherapy. And why I asked you before the question how you see another person, how you see a human being, how you understand the nature of a person, of its subject, I don't know. It's not only about personality, because subject, personality, a human being, persons also kind of terms that we use in different schools of psychology. For example, psychoanalytical representatives, they kind of say subject, especially structural psychoanalysis, Jacques Lacan school, French school of psychoanalysis, Jacques Lacan. Soviet psychology, I told you before that it's really common to say about a human being that we use term personality, yes. But anyway, the idea is human, yes, and why it's important for counseling or for psychotherapy, the way how you see another person, the same way you understand yourself, and the same way you will giving this help to another person with the words, with the special techniques, I don't know, with some hypnosis. It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't depend on the school, to be honest. But what we have in psychology now, and this is kind of from one side a special feature of psychology, that we don't see the psychic of a person, we don't see the person the same way. That is why we have many theories of personality. Many different view how we understand psychic. But psychic is part of my human beings, already the word psychic, yeah? Mm-hmm. And that is why I'm giving this lecture in English again, because I gave it several times in Russian. And you know, if you, for example, open now Wikipedia, you know Wikipedia, this is a resource that usually people create, yeah, this resource, and they create it from the language they speak. For example, if you now look at this Wikipedia and kind of see the description of the word psychotherapy in Russian and in English, it will be too... It's not like different. Anyway, idea is to help another person, of course, but it will be different, a little bit different view on the psychotherapeutic process. Again, psychotherapy for me is equivalent to counseling. Keep it in mind. And that is why I was asking you before how you understand the human's nature, because it's important if you are going to be practitioner. and it's really thin, you know, kind of border, yeah, between how to say, between psychotherapy and psychology, because actually it's two different ideas. So psychology, this is science. Psychotherapy, it's not a science. But when we do psychotherapy or when we do counseling, so idea, we use some, anyway, psychological knowledge, we use psychological theories. So, did you get it, yeah? So that is why you have to understand when people now are trying to tell that this school is more effective than this school of psychotherapy. I'm telling about the way how we treat another person, yeah? And this school is not kind of effective. Actually, psychotherapy is not a science. It's very difficult to prove it because we don't have one view again on personality. All of them, they kind of have place to be. The main thing in psychology, to my opinion, is not the question of proof, yeah, but this is the question of in what I believe. That is why I was asking you how you understand another person. And your understanding usually corresponds to some psychological approach that we already have in psychology, from scientific perspective. So this theory of personality, that theory of personality, and etc. So did you get it? It's clear for you, yeah? That's kind of very thin border between psychology and psychotherapy from one side, but from another it's kind of a little bit different, yeah, direction. So again, coming back, English and Russian, yeah, language. If you open this Wikipedia resource in Russian language, you will see that we divide this understanding of personality, not even personality, it's connected, yeah. We divide this school, let's call it like that, of psychotherapy, these approaches of psychotherapy on 6 or 7 directions that we have in psychotherapy. But if to talk about schools that we have in psychology and therapy, there are more than 500 now. So it's around 1,000 schools of psychology. So all the schools, they tell that we have such type of therapy, we call it like that, and it's working. We have such type of therapy, and I don't know, maybe you know some words, some fashionable words, not like cognitive behavior therapy, it's very traditional, of course, but maybe you know some new words that we use in school of therapy. Just give me example if you already know something.
I've heard about transformative games.
It's okay. It's not a therapeutic approach, but anyway, yeah, they may call this like, oh, we have school of transformative games. Okay, but it's more like about, I don't know, even in psychoanalytical approach, we have structural psychoanalysis, we have Jungian school, we have transfer and focus therapy, yes, we have transactional analysis. Mm-hmm. So you see, this is different school, but actually approach is the only one. But if you look at the English-speaking Wikipedia, so the division is a little bit different than in Russian-speaking area. So they sometimes use description of schools. Like, for example, they describe in the family system therapy as a different approach. But, for example, if to look on family therapy, in that sense, this is a therapeutic approach. But understanding of family anyway has specific school. So, and it's like maybe system theories, but not only. If you, for example, believe in psychoanalysis, you will be doing this family therapy from psychoanalytical perspective. This seems. Do you have any questions?
I wanted to ask about the Gestalt therapy. It's very popular in our country, but in universities we don't study this approach. Can you tell about?
Actually, idea of university education, we don't have to teach you psychotherapy. Psychotherapy, this is practice. And if you want to call yourself a psychotherapist, I told you, yeah, before in our lectures, that you have to get this additional knowledge outside of the university, because here at the university we study psychology as a science. In that sense, there is Gestalt psychology, for example, and I'm absolutely sure that you studied the theories of Gestalt psychology, Kurt Lewin at least. I remember we studied this in social psychology, in the school of Kurt Lewin, kind of Gestalt psychology. But Gestalt therapy, this is one of the school of therapy, and it's very popular, but the founder of this direction is Frederick Perls. So in that sense, in this direction, they don't have a definite psychological theory that explains the personality. So that's complication maybe of of university education, because here again, I'm repeating, we are explaining you psychological theories, but you can learn this direction if you want to practice the therapy after university. I will tell something about this direction, but for example, I'm not professional, by the way, in this direction. So with other school, I'm familiar, in my own experience, because I tried many of them. I was communicating and interacting with pure, in that sense, representatives of other schools and direction. But with this direction, I'm not familiar. Now, if to talk about this direction, to my opinion, they more belong to humanistic approach. So these patterns. So what I'm trying to tell you, by the way, when I started to give you all this idea about different languages and different even quantity of schools and approaches that we have in psychotherapy. From one side, it shows us that we don't see the person in one way, but from another part, it shows that there is some problem with psychology, that we are paying attention on very narrow thing, but the psychic is not so narrow. So. It's really good also seen in psychology because all theories they can see the person from different perspective, and it doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. And in that sense, there are definite view anyway on a psychic. So Gestalt therapy, to my opinion, see the person from humanistic perspective. If even now they use the word phenomenology, it's very fashionable now in science to talk about phenomenology. That this word phenomenology. What does it mean? It's when I describe a person. For example, if you talk about psychology, from not only that you have kind of definite structure like psychoanalysis told us, but it's like phenomenon. So it's not something very structured. It's very flexible. It's phenomenon, yes, and we can describe it, but not give kind of definite structure. So from that point of view, to my opinion, it's very popular, but it belongs to approach humanistic maybe. They call it sometimes existential, but I don't see there are existential features in any approaches. So approach, or how you can say, approach, direction, understand, these words. This is something that's kind of wide, but school, it's like an element, this part. So many schools, but approach or direction, we have, to my opinion, definite quantity. How I understand another person, how I do this therapy. We are talking about therapy now. So of course, I told you many times how psychotherapy appeared. Who gave us this idea that we can treat another person with definite way, with using of the words? Who gave this idea? Talking cure. So psychotherapy, before we call this, now even this direction called this way, how I help another person, that this is talking cure. Freud, of course, yes. So what's the name of his school? Psychoanalysis. So this school, psychoanalysis, psychoanalysis, Freud. So how they see the nature of another person? How Freud saw the
main idea in the psychoanalytical approach, especially in classical psychoanalytical approach, is to get information from the unconscious part. That's the main idea of
Yes.
the therapy.
So they believe that there is the unconscious
Mind.
exists.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I see another person. And Freud invented this term actually, psychoanalysis, psychic analysis. And this was one of the first form of therapy we know now. But of course we did this treatment of a soul many years before psychoanalysis, but we did it in different way, not with kind of help of psychology as we do now. So this is kind of specific term we use now because we have psychology also, the science. So idea of Freud was that I can cure another person with words, let's call it like that. Talking cure, that is why we call psychoanalysis sometimes like that. But if to talk about approaches, so this is psychoanalysis, this is cool. But approach that we have now, approach or direction that we have now, we call it psychodynamic. Did you hear this term before?
Yes.
What does it mean?
If we will take the word dynamic itself, dynamic is the action, let's say, is the energy. So isn't the same as the energy of psyche?
Yes,
It's the obvious thing.
Yes, so main idea, just try to understand, because you studied this at the university, probably in different subject you had this idea of psychoanalytical understanding of a person. But if you kind of didn't read something, you can read anyway, because it's very popular direction, psychoanalytical, psychodynamic, so it's not kind of difficult to find any information. But I'm trying to be kind of, in that sense, very not so long with my words. So main idea. That's true, psychodynamic, that means there is psychic and there is some dynamic process in my psychic. But the main idea that there is unconscious. So in all schools of this direction, there are many of schools in this direction now. We understand and we believe that unconscious exists. So I believe. That's very questionable, how I can prove that unconscious there is, and Freud did it in a different manner, way. He showed us these things in our dreams and etc., sleepers, and so maybe you remember these things. But main idea, so they see that in my nature, when I understand another person, there is consciousness and there is this unconscious part, and there is dynamic, so there is some psychic energy. So Freud was talking about psychic energy, but still some schools, they keep this in mind. So dynamic, that means something can change. So it's always dynamic process in my psychic, in my soul. So that is why if I have some problem, usually, according to this approach, my problem appeared because I don't understand. It's like I don't know that there is something in my psychic that kind of light under my consciousness. I don't know about existing this internal conflict, let's call it like that. And this gives me some problem. So, for example, if I now we have modern school, not modern, but anyway, it's very also kind of popular school now in this psychodynamic approach, transactional analysis. Have you heard? Yes, so Eric Berne. So he was, he belongs to psychodynamic, approach. And so idea, for example, if we consider the school of transactional analysis, they believe that person has a definite structure, so adult, parent and child, so this definite structure. And I understand you from this perspective, that you have the three parts in your personality. But there is something unconscious in your life, they call it like script scenario, that can influence on your behavior and can give you some troubles, but you don't know about existing this scenario because the script, because it's unconscious, it kind of comes from your family. Because, I don't know, your grandma has some trouble with, I don't know, your grandpa, but you understand, I mean. So, they taught you, for example, in definite way, but it's like, it was not like their intention to teach you like that, but you copy something, but it's not consciousness. Understand this idea? And what they do in this therapy when they actually have a client or patient, yeah, so they see you in this perspective, okay, you kind of copied some attitude from your parents. This is kind of script, bad script. For example, you kind of in your life you're using this script that okay, I'm loser. So have you heard? Yeah, it's very popular, by the way. Maybe you have heard. It's not I mean, the first person who is telling you. And for example, okay, you kind of have the script of the loser. So my idea in this therapy, I'm trying to change the script. So you can, maybe you even don't understand that you are a loser, but what does it mean to be a loser? Okay, I start something and I fail, and it causes me some problem. Understand? So, but of course, they keep in mind there is unconscious, because to realize this script, it's not like, oh, it's my thoughts, I have, I mean, of course I have some thoughts, but it's usually kind of covered by something. And the technique they use, sometimes they ask you to write some story, to create a story. And when you, for example, write the story, I look at your story and I can see some unconscious things that there is in your psychic, let's call like that. Maybe you kind of give the description of some character, but actually you are kind of make a description of your life. And I can see, and so did you get it, yeah? So what I'm trying to say, in this psychodynamic approach, there are many schools. The school of transactional analysis, classical Freudian school, of course. What else we have? As I told you before, structural psychoanalysis by Jacques Lacan. It's a very popular French school of psychoanalysis. What else, how do you think, belong to this direction? What schools? Adlerian, yes, exactly. What else? Jung, yes, analytical psychology. Yes, analytical psychology.
The school of
Karl Horney. And you know this, to my opinion, art therapy. Have you heard this term before? So it's also very tricky. Sometimes they tell that art therapy, this is a therapeutic approach. But to my opinion, art therapy, this is, yes, like more like methods, because understanding of personality in this method, usually, it's not always, there are different schools, of course, of art therapy too, but usually it belongs to Carl Jung, because he invented this idea that I can do the therapy with the help of some art. So some drawings, and so in that sense, that means I believe that unconscious exists. So it's already psychodynamic, you see? So the school of art therapy in that sense belongs to psychodynamic approach, because if I draw something, it's my projection that there is in my kind of soul, I put it on a paper, and it helps me to reduce conflict I have. So psychic is working dynamic. So did you get it? Maybe it can be maybe difficult, but plenty of the schools. But to my opinion, it's more useful for you to understand the idea that exists in one direction, because idea is kind of okay. Unconscious exists. Other things kind of more detailed.
So McCart's also psychodynamic.
Psychodynamic, of course, is projection. This is pure, projection. So what do you see? Describe. And I can describe, and it's like if I do this description, it's demonstrates something that I have in my unconscious. The word projection is a psychoanalytical term Freud, yeah, invented this. Again, what I'm trying to tell you, that in this direction that I'm trying to describe you, it's not psychological theories. I mean, there are more than quantity of these approaches. I mean, there are more theories. But what I'm trying to highlight today, that some psychological theories that are important for psychotherapy. Because psychotherapy, this is not science. This is way how I help another person. So you have to be really clear with that. There are more than these schools that we kind of now pronounced, but the idea is psychodynamic. How do you think? What another view, another direction how I see the person? So in this context, psychodynamic unconscious there is, yeah, exists. So how we see another person? You can remember your answers, how you were describing how you see another person, and the answers you have in your mind.
Another approach?
Yes, another.
I think it's about behavior.
Yes, okay, let's call, you know how, not call, let's talk about them in time they were appeared. So phenomenological approach, as I told you before, it's now very fashionable word, I would say. But phenomenology is a science, to be honest. It's philosophical, yeah, approach, and it didn't appear as psychotherapeutic school. But you are telling about behaviorism, yeah?
Yeah.
So what do you know about this?
It's absolutely opposite of psychoanalysis.
I mean, I wrote it, but later I will join it with another school, because now it doesn't exist separately. But okay, what's the main idea of these theories that were invented in this direction? Behavior, what does it mean? How do you understand this? Learning. Learning. So learning, behavior, but how do you understand the word behavior, by the way? What does it mean, behavior?
Action. Some
Action.
actions we can see.
Some.
I would say anything that can do the dead body is not a behavior. So if you lay down, it's not a behavior.
Mm-hmm.
If you close your eyes, it's not a behavior. Anything. Look, you are standing right now. You are behaving in that way.
Mm-hmm.
You are talking to us. You are moving your head. You are moving your hands, your gestures, your emotions, expressions. It's all about our behavior.
Mm-hmm. So, but whether
That's
you're
how I understand the word behavior.
okay.
Behavior.
You told actions, yeah?
Any reaction or action.
Reaction. So they tries to see the person not only from the perspective that unconscious exists. They literally discovered the idea that if I do something, you will be reacting. So, and it's like a stimulus reaction, if to be very, very short in that sense. So, and if I I don't know, show you something and you kind of react, and if I tell you, oh, this is good, yes, and then you learn that this is good, and then in other situations in your life you will be demonstrating this behavior.
You will behave in the same way
that you were taught. Yes.
In the past.
But you see that this view on the psychic, it's only about behavior. So stimul reaction, stimul reaction, stimul reaction. In that sense, they kind of didn't see that unconscious there is. I mean, maybe they see, but it's not the main idea of existing unconscious. It's behavior, what I can see. It's like actions. So did you get this idea?
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, why I want to join this this direction, behaviorism, and another one was very popular. No. They kind of started almost the same time. In psychology, they started to do these experiments. They kind of tried to explain human being nature from behavior and from another sense. Cognitive, yeah. Have you heard?
Yes.
Cognition, so the word cognition.
Cognition, what is it?
Cognition. Cognition. Когниция это также, ну, в смысле, это по-русски точно cognition, познание. Cognition. So you have heard, yeah? Actually, when I started the lecture, okay, you were telling I belong to CBT. So you already kind of described this direction. If you have heard what Rukia was telling you, how she was kind of describing why she understood that she belongs to this direction. Do you remember? Yes, your answers. But I will anyway repeat now, but it's a very popular direction now, that's true. And they exist now in one, let's call it direction, yeah? Cognitive behavior therapy. So cognitive plus behavior. So when I do therapy, I mean, when I do experiment, I see only behavior, but now when I have to do therapy, I have to also keep in mind that you have some thinking, some idea, and for example, to change your behavior, I have to change some of your thinking. So cognitive behavior therapy, this direction, it has now many schools. I'm not an expert again in these schools, but if you have heard such popular words like EMDR, these short storms, and what else? DBR, did you hear this?
Yes,
TBT, so have you heard this word?
Yes.
So this kind of schools on this direction, but main idea, so I believe that you have some cognition that can influence on your behavior, and if you have some problem, the main idea how I can treat you, what should I do? So if we
Change your cognition.
yes, change your the way how you think about this, and if you understand, for example, that you have some distortion in your thinking, maybe you will kind of re-evaluate your understanding of your personality, yourself, yes, and then you behave differently. So if you want to read about this more, I would recommend you to read the work of Aaron Beck, because he one of the founder of this therapeutic approach. Again, not a school, because there are many schools, but if we are talking about psychotherapy, so Aaron Beck told, yeah, there is cognitive behavior therapy. So, and he was treating people with depression. Maybe you have heard that we have not, still we use this test, the scale of Aaron Beck when we measure depression. So he was, but originally, so what it's really interesting, that guess to which direction and school he was kind of belonged to. You have to guess immediately. Of course, all of them, they were psychoanalytical in that sense, because Freud invented this method and it was very popular. So they did this therapy mainly with the main of psychoanalytical approach. Beck, he appeared not in 20s or 30s. Theory appeared in 20s and 30s, but therapy appeared a little bit later, when psychoanalytical direction was very already popular in the world. And he tried to show that we can do this treatment of another person, not only with the idea that unconscious exists. So he was telling himself that I once was kind of doing this free association with my patient, and when she kind of gave some answers, he did interpretation, because in psychoanalysis they give you interpretation of some words. I mean, they try to build this connection. Oh, you have something like this. And he was telling, okay, you have anxiety, yeah, because of this, this, and this. And she was telling, no. So her answer was completely opposite than the idea of this, of his interpretation. And he was thinking, okay, maybe it's not because this conflict exists in her unconscious, because she thinks herself, so her thoughts about herself are not kind of good in that sense, and they trigger this anxiety, for example, and they trigger this attitude to her that she's really suffer from depression. And he was trying to, okay, I will kind of do it a little bit different way, so I will try not to kind of take this conflict. It's metaphorical, yeah? When I'm telling this, is take this conflict from unconscious, it's metaphorical. I want to kind of take this this conflict from unconscious and want to do this visible, because usually psychoanalysis work like that. But I will try to pay her attention on her think that, okay, so this distortion in kind of thinking you have about yourself, this is pure cognition. And if a person has really high intellectual skills, it's usually easier. Okay, yes, I'm kind of bad thoughts I have, maybe I should kind of reconstruct them. So did you get this? Yeah. So if to be in short, like it's like there are many schools again, but idea they kind of do the therapy when I'm trying to change your behavior. I'm kind of doing it through the perspective of your cognition, also of your thoughts. So they have kind of, that is why they have some exercise, some techniques. Just describe your thoughts during the week. They call it like diary. Yeah. Just pay attention how you think, how you evaluate yourself, and etc. Do you have any question? Is it clear for you? Now it's very popular school and school direction. Sorry, it has many schools, and for some people it's really kind of easy to be represent of this direction, because it's like it's literally I can work with this cognitive thing. So you do the therapy, yes, it's behavioral therapy. So you don't have to kind of see the person that, oh, he has unconscious, yeah. So the way you do the treatment, it's literally train, yeah, ABA therapy. Yeah. It's one of the school, yeah, of this direction. Oh, okay, what do you know else? Maybe some other schools, some other directions.
I've heard about dispositional approach, in other words, let's say trait approach.
Psychotherapy or in psychology, because it's two different things. There is dispositional theories in psychology, so how they see personality.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means my personality has some dispositions, like features.
Mm-hmm.
Raymond Kittel, by the way, he's a representative of this theory. Or what do you mean? This mean it's like dispositional theory or dispositional therapy? Then I don't know what does it mean.
Dispositional theory, I guess.
Theory,
I'm
okay.
talking about the theory.
Yeah, so it's like no, it's psychology. Yeah, so we don't use it in therapy. I mean, I can use it in therapy because maybe you have some dispositions. I believe here that you have some features, yeah. But in therapy, it's not like a school.
Oh.
So it's again.
Client-centered therapy.
Yes, client-centered
Carl
therapy.
Rogers.
Yes.
That
Have you
was
heard?
proposed by Carl Rogers. Yes.
But we call it humanistic
Humanistic.
approach. Yeah. So term counseling, Carl
Yes.
Rogers. So what do you know about this humanistic approach? How do you think they see, the nature, how they do the therapy?
I'm not sure about what is humanistic, but I can say about client-centered therapy, also known as Rogerian therapy or person-centered therapy. So the main idea that was proposed by the Rogers was to present at the counseling process without any suggesting, without any advising. You should to be just here, listen, and that's all. He proposed also that every person is the expert of his own life. He know about the solutions to their problem. That was the main idea that was proposed by the Rogers.
Yes, it's if to talk about it's definite school of this approach. So again, humanistic approach is wider than only school of Rogerian, yeah. How they call client-centered therapy, yeah. But did you get this idea? So from this perspective, how do you think people who belongs to this direction, how they see another person. What does it mean, humanistic? Because the word, the root of the word, human.
We see the person as he has all power to change himself. He has all opportunity, potential.
Yes, potential. Yes. So, and in that sense, Rogers, he invented kind of the school. Yes, of client-centered therapy. But if to talk about theories of psychology, we can remember Abraham Maslow, yes, who was talking about the pyramids. Remember the pyramid of needs. So in that sense, kind of this understanding of another person. So this human who has something in his life that can be realized is like potential. So in that sense, when I do therapy, that means I believe that you have potential and I'm just with you and you can have these possibilities, yes? You have these possibilities to make your life better. And this approach appeared not in medical paradigm because Rogers was not psychiatrist. If I'm talking about psychoanalysis, for example, Freud was neurologist. I gave you an example of Aaron Beck. He was a psychiatrist, but Rogers, he was psychologist. He was not psychiatrist, and he invented the term counseling I mentioned before. So our subject we call individual counseling, to be honest. Not to be honest, but individual counseling, but to be honest, to my opinion, is this, I mean, we can kind of call it in different manner and we can use different words, but idea, anyway, I help you with something when you ask me to help you, yes? So I think that this school is kind of clear, yeah. I don't need to highlight, yeah, I don't need to explain you, yeah, because it's interesting, yeah. But in any of the schools, you see, in the words we have already the meaning, the main understanding, the main idea. So cognitive behavior therapy, okay, I got it. Many schools, but I know idea anyway about cognition and behavior. Psychodynamic, okay, unconscious and psychic is changing many schools, but anyway, that means I can change it with something that maybe exists in your unconscious and I put it in conscious level, let's call it like that. Humanistic, okay, I do this treatment, I believe that you have potential and I just need to be near with you, be concentrated, yeah, on your needs and kind of help you
to actualize your whole potential,
yes.
Help to realize, to get you into the realization of your main purpose in this life. That's what humanistic psychology is suggesting.
Answering to your question about Gestalt therapy, so I think they keep this in mind when they do therapy, because there is no, as I mentioned before, that there is no theory. It's like we see the structure of personality like that. Of course, they believe that there is, Gestalt, but this Gestalt psychology is a little bit different. But I think the way they do the therapy, it's more about I understand your human being. So that is why, it's very popular now. And coming back to this idea of Wikipedia, you can see actually they highlight this direction. So they sometimes in some, I don't remember by the way, English or Russian speaking Wikipedia I saw, but they kind of now they put this like different, not definite, like separate direction. But as I told you before, I lectured about these approaches many times. And when 3 years ago, I had a look at these approaches, and Gestalt therapy didn't exist like separate direction. But now because of popularity, I think. But I think it's more about anyway. So this small school. Now, you see this idea more clear, because it's important for counseling process. I'm telling you, for therapeutic process. That is why we were answering on these questions, because you believe, for example, in potential. That means if I believe in your potential, I will be doing this therapy in some definite way, because I believe. Okay?
What about ACT, commitment therapy?
Acceptance,
and commitment therapy.
acceptance, commitment therapy. I think they belong to humanistic or existential.
I guess it's existential. Yeah, I've heard about
Yeah,
it's
then
existential
existential
approach.
more. Yeah, maybe it's about accept and
Existential.
commit. Yeah, it's more about existence. So next direction, existential.
Yeah.
So what do you know about this? Now we know the school.
Existential.
One of the school.
Existential approach are focusing on helping with the realization of your freedom and encourages you to accept the reality itself.
All of them, they do like that. Anyway, if you have some problem with your cognition, my idea when I helping you, so I'm trying to help with you with reality also.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, there is something in this existential direction, but what actually, to my opinion, this is the most difficult school, not school, but approach. But how do you think why? I mean, I know I have the answer, but maybe you kind of know something.
Between existential and humanistic.
Yes, it's two different directions. As by the way, you have to know this kind of many years, not many years ago, but even several years ago, again, when I looked in this Wikipedia, it was common to speak about humanistic existential direction. But you have to know that, for example, if you were speaking with someone who kind of was studying psychotherapy in Europe, they immediately would kind of separate this, because to my opinion, the same is two separate directions. Humanistic approach was born in the United States. So psychoanalysis was born in Europe. Yes, but humanistic was in that sense, I mean, of course, some ideas, they are all over the world. It doesn't mean that the theories we have now in psychology, that they appeared only right now, and it's like only in this place. I mean, we existed many centuries before, and we did this therapy in some definite way many centuries before. But in that sense, if we're talking about school, humanistic, it's more American. So it's humanistic, see the human. It doesn't mean that another directions they don't see human, but it's a little bit different. Existential direction appeared in Europe. So the idea, and it's really difficult because in existential direction, they don't have the theory of personality. So it's also, because in psychodynamic, there are theories we already discussed. It, ego, superego, adult, child, parent. Yes. For example, humanistic approach, the theory that there is a potential, okay, Abraham Maslow described a person, so this is a definite theory of personality. In existential, they don't have it. And actually, the main difficulty with this direction, that they see the human being nature. Actually, when I use the term human being, it belongs to this school, because other approaches, they more talk about person, personality, subject, client. But in this direction, it is common to speak about human being. So do you see the difference already, human being or person? Is there a difference for you? So it's wider in that sense. Existential direction looks on a person wider than only through perspective of his or her psychic process. That's a problem of psychology, to be honest, because we see person and we look only on psychic, but there are more than psychic. So human being is not only psychic, yeah, in that sense. And what existential direction tried to highlight when they appeared, because you see these directions, they looked very narrow in that sense, yeah, on psychic behavior, cognition, unconscious, and existential, even humanistic. I mean, but it's potential, but it's anyway, it's kind of narrow. It's wider than behavior, if you talk about human. But anyway, in the existential direction, we are talking about human being, about the way how you have your life, you have the world outside, you have other people with whom you kind of interact with. So very kind of popular in that sense. It's not like a theory of personality, but the way how they see the human being, our human being nature, that there are different dimensions of our life. Umwelt, Mitwelt, Eigenwelt. And now there is another direction. Amy van Dortzen offered this term, like the spiritual dimension. So this dimension means Eigenwelt, this is my internal world, Mitwelt, this is how I interact with you. Yes, and Umwelt, this is nature, this is environment, and all these things. Did you get? Yeah. In this direction, so what I tried to tell you several times why it's more difficult, because it looks on the human being's nature wider, so it looks on the life by itself, and to be representative of this direction, you have to learn philosophy. So this is a requirement, because it's literally based on philosophical works. You have to read Heidegger. It's like, because Heidegger helped Medard Boss to kind of describe this school, yes, of existential analysis. The term existential analysis, for example, appeared in 50s. Ludwig Binswanger offered this term. And he was actually, he liked psychoanalysis, and he was one of the, in that sense, like, let's call it like opponents of Freud, with whom he didn't fight because he showed different understanding of this human being nature.
Could you give some example? For example, if I go to CBT, my therapist will ask about my thoughts, and he would help me change my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But what will do existential therapists?
They will be, I mean, they don't have special techniques in that sense. But it doesn't mean that I won't be asking you, so what do you think about this? So you have to understand how it's like, it's not literally like that. But the process, I'm with you in the when I'm doing the therapeutic process, responsibility on changing is on you. So I believe, that if you came to me and if you survived in that sense before me, so you can able to cope with some difficulties. But in that sense, I won't kind of give you like task, oh, let's kind of do this exercise, or show me the next week your diary. So we will be creating dialogue, and in this existence, with this idea, how to say, this therapeutic relationship. So you will be kind of telling me something, but I will be near. So the metaphor they use, it's like you are the Sherlock, I am the Watson. So you are coming to solve the problem. So it's not me who will be asking what thoughts you have and let's change it. So responsibility is on you. If you want to change something, I will be near with you. I will show you direction. But you are Watson, you are Sherlock, I'm Watson. This is metaphor that Ernesto Spinelli uses. This is one of the, it's like now he's very popular, it's British school of existential direction. There are many, many schools now, as I told you before. Viktor Frankl, for example. Have you heard his name?
Yes.
He is one of the representatives of this direction, the school of logotherapy. He's doctor, actually. He was psychiatrist. In his school, they have some techniques. To be honest, he invented the method of paradoxical intention. But the book he has about meaning of life, it's very popular now, not only between psychologists, but it's very popular book between, all people of the world. So he highlighted this idea, so existence, I exist, but my idea is about meaning. So for example, if I can give you example from his school, because it's easier, in that sense, because they have technique. Yeah, when I'm trying to describe you this experience on existential directions, it's difficult for you to understand because it's experience. It's like, wow, if cognitive, they ask questions, so here it's like I'm describing, but it's very difficult to understand, yeah, so how it's looking like. But for example, Frankl, in his logotherapy, he has kind of definite understanding of kind of human being existence that to help you to cure some problem, you have to find your meaning. The meaning of life, I don't know, the meaning of something, but because if you don't have this meaning, you will be suffering. And he was explaining this very famous kind of example. He gives this in many books. Maybe you have heard this example. So once the old doctor came to him because he had depression, and he suffered because he lost his wife several years ago. And when he came to Dr. Frankl, he was telling, okay, I am doctor myself, please don't prescribe me any medicine, I can do it myself. Yes, but please help me. I lost my wife 2 years ago, and so she was meaning of my life, yes, so I can't live, so I suffer. And Dr. Frankl, he asked him only one question. Try to guess, because now we give this example in many psychological schools, because this is the shortest therapeutic process that exists. So it's not like 10 years of therapy, but one question and the therapy was finished with this guy. It's not literally like that, words by words, but try, I mean, he was telling. So just imagine if you would die first. What's the experience? If you would die first.
What your wife would feel. So that's, I think that's the same.
No, it's like how to say. It's not literally. You see, the formulation has. I mean, the idea the same, but the way I put it it's a little bit different. I mean, the meaning is the same, but you put it in kind of different words. But he was asking about experience. He just to imagine. So this idea of the existential approach, they don't use, I mean, such words, what you feel. I mean, I don't know what I feel. So they can tell it like, okay, if I would on your place, maybe I would feel this. Sometimes they do it when they do this therapeutic process. But he was asking, yes, just imagine if you would die first, what your wife would experience. So the term feeling and experience is different.
Yes.
I understand, yes. So sometimes it's important for therapy, because if I use the word feel, so I don't know what I feel, but if I use the word experience, it can...
I think it also depends on people.
Yes.
Was it loved one, or was it some stranger?
Yeah, but in that sense, and immediately the doctor, the doctor thought, okay, I wouldn't want that my wife had such suffering that I have now. And the idea, what this example shows, that he filled his suffering with meaning. So now he has the meaning why he suffers. And that is why it kind of had a therapeutic effect on him. Understand?
I understand now.
Yes. So it's but it was possible only with this man. Of course, so don't try to repeat it with any person who will come to you and tell, okay, I suffer 5 years because my husband died. Oh, try to. So it's also, I mean, you have to be really careful. But you understood now, yeah. So this one of the school of this existential direction. So in that sense, they look at the nature of human being not only through perspective of very narrow psychic process, they try to see life itself. And it's very philosophical in that sense, true, because there are many questions that they put, you have to understand what does it mean anxiety, you have to read Kierkegaard, as I mentioned before.
I think the topic of death itself is very controversial. The topic of death itself, the word, the meaning of this, it's really controversial, so we have different opinions.
To death, you mean? But death, so death, you mean what? So it's like, what does mean controversial? It's like, what?
Controversial, the word itself.
The word?
Yes, because for somebody is a motivation to live. For someone is the end of the life if the person is acting more as a pessimistic, from the pessimistic point of view.
Yeah, but it's like it's literally sometimes, my colleagues are asking, I love this direction. I mean, I belong to European Association of Existential Therapy, but I can't call myself as existential therapist. I just like the ideas, but some ideas I use in therapy, so I really like this direction. And sometimes my colleagues are asking, what do existential therapists? That means someone is coming to you and you kind of trying to read philosophers together. Yes, let's read Heidegger together. I'm kind of talking about him, this name. His writing was very difficult. I mean, the way he was describing this, his thoughts are very difficult. Of course not. I mean, we do the same that other people do, but that means I see the human being life in definite perspective. So try to remember your answers. So all you see is through only cognition and some ideas about this, or you see that, okay, this is kind of givens, that everyone will die. It doesn't matter I want or I don't want, but these givens we have to kind of cope with, so you can't change it. And in that sense, that's all. But sometimes people think that, it's like very depressive direction, we are talking about death or something. I mean, in that sense, any person who comes to you in any direction, he can talk about this because someone is dying, or I am near to die, I don't know, so I lost someone. So it's with these questions, usually people come to any direction because people don't come to therapy if everything is okay. Usually it's some problems of choice, some problems of love. Some problems of I lost something, yes, some problems of anxiety, what
Interpersonal
else?
relations.
It's like relationship, yes, but it's like, I mean, this direction, they see it's very wide, you see, it's like givens that we have. So, I mean, we have choice, we have limitation, we have possibilities, etc. So many schools, again, are in this direction too. I just called you several, Ludwig Binswanger, existential analysis. Now Alfred Langley, he has the same school, he called it existential analysis, but it's a little bit different view. Langley, he is a pupil of Frankl. Frankl has logotherapy. Yes, now British school of existential direction is very popular. So in that sense, I understand more about this direction. And of course about this, because I have I started my career, I was trained in this direction, in psychodynamic. So we did some therapy with our patients through the perspective of Jungian approach. So in that sense, we kind of believed that psychic, by default, this is Jung's idea that psychic can cure itself. So by default, we have this mechanism. So in psychodynamic. But if you want, I can, give you some recommendation what to read. Or just remind me, I have open lectures on this direction in Russian. So if just not to tell you now, because I can talk about this direction many hours. If you want, I just give you a link and you will watch.
I've heard about ratio-emotional approach.
CBT. Albert Ellis. The word rational, that means cognition. The school of cognitive, yes. Again, I'm coming back to this idea how we treated this person. We can treat it in a really different way.
I heard about one technique where when you have like emotions or feelings, like negative feelings, for example, avida, and therapists say like, in your body, where do you feel?
Okay.
And like, let's imagine what kind of color it has, and the
okay.
form.
Okay.
And then you like talk with this form.
this actually psychodynamic approach, because they believe that your emotion can stuck somewhere in your body, but it's unconscious in your body reacting. Reich was a representative of the. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you, so this is not the only approaches, because in that sense it's true, sometimes some psychotherapeutic schools they kind of highlight not only existence, human behavior, but there is something, yes, that kind of beyond these things. And what usually we call that something is beyond these things? How we call it? You call it actually.
Beyond this approach?
I mean beyond the human, beyond the existence, beyond personality, beyond unconscious. What else we have in reality that goes beyond all these terms? It's like spiritual. I mean, it's not literally spiritual therapy, but they call it transpersonal psychotherapy. It was very popular many years before. I don't know is it popular now or not. But this have you had transpersonal direction? So what did they do? They actually originally, Stanislav and Christina Grof, one of the representatives of this, this direction, transpersonal, something beyond persona, something beyond person, yes? So the experience that goes beyond this kind of, if I can tell like that, this state of consciousness, okay, if kind of to talk like that, if I can. Yeah, but the idea, what they did, they based, of course, on the works of Carl Jung about, yeah, that there is this, Jung was describing, yeah, also some spiritual, you know, experience, and when Jung was kind of trying to describe some ideas of analytical psychology, you know, that at the beginning of 20th century it was really popular, these spiritual sessions. So literally they were calling spirit and they were talking to them. So and Jung used this idea in his understanding that there is collective unconscious and there is something, yes, we call archetype, yes, and there is something that exists in in that sense in our experience in this world that I don't know, but this belongs to something that I can't call rational. It's like something, anyway, it's like, let's call it like spiritual, if I can say like that. Did you get this idea? So what these representatives, I mean the guys who are representing this direction, what they did. In 60s and 70s, it was very popular to do all these experiments, like you were describing the experiments you are doing with you, with different drugs. LSD. For example, Timothy Leary, this is one of the very famous psychologists, maybe you know his name, yeah? Have you heard this name, Timothy Leary? He was describing his experiment with LSD. But LSD, this is a drug that kind of changing my consciousness. Yeah, I see some things, it's like hallucinations and etc. It's kind of for all these guys who kind of have to not all this. I mean, I also kind of do psychotherapy, but psychic, as I told you before, it's not something that I can touch. By default, it's already something that I trust or not trust. I mean, I can't prove existence of any of this theory. In that sense, if even they're talking about this approach that it can be provable, but it's very questionable in that sense. But what that means, we kind of sometimes we're using this method like hypnosis is Freud actually, when he offered this way how to help another person, he offered to do it with words, but not with hypnosis. But you know that before they treated this some disease that exists, hysteria. They treated hysteria with hypnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, yeah. Mm-hmm. And what the representatives of this direction they did. So these directions, they try to highlight some consciousness, cognition, existence. So I understand, yeah. But this kind of they try. Okay, so let's talk about something that kind of cover not only reality, but there is something that goes transpersonal. So they use different methods. They actually use drugs That's, I mean, I'm not joking. They used, I mean, but they didn't offer you to use drugs. They did, when they created, they, of course, they kind of did these experiments with conscious with drugs. But when they did therapy, so one of the way how you can get to this state of your conscious state.
It's about meditation.
Yes, it's also not only about meditation, but now cognitive behavior therapy, they use meditation also, the method mindfulness you have had. It's like they use some methods that exist in Eastern practice, like meditation, and they try to build some, not school, but they try to use these methods for treating, so for therapy. But this is actually cognitive behavior approach. So transpersonal direction, they had to have a deal with this altered state. And the way how I can get to this altered state, the easiest way, of course, is drugs. I mean, they didn't offer you to use the drugs, but I mean, it was very popular between some intellectual society in 60s of last century to do these experiments with altered state. But I'm trying to tell you about Stanislav and Christina Grof because they are very popular in that sense, and they kind of one of the founders, one of the founders of this direction. So they invented the method. They used breathing. Maybe you have heard a holotrope breathing. I can maybe mistaken the term холотропное дыхание, holotrope breathing. So this is one of the school of this direction. So when you breathe, you know that it's intense breathing can kind of help you to get into this altered state. And I'm using this in therapy with you. So, for example, I have been several years ago, it was very popular, this direction in Russia, and it was 20 years ago in Yaroslavl. Vladimir Vasilievich Kozlov, he did some international conference every year where he was kind of called different different representatives of direction. And there were guys who kind of representatives of this direction. So sometimes they use for therapy different methods, not only breathing. So some of them they literally did breathing, and some of them they use some techniques. For example, one guy, I remember he was psychotherapist, he was psychiatrist, he was a doctor, but he used shamanic techniques to put you into this altered state. So because the way I use drum and some definite kind of sounding of music can put you easily to this altered state. So the same thing I can do with hypnosis. So understand? The same thing I can do with drugs. The same thing I can do with meditation. The same thing I can do with breathing. And this school was really popular, I mean, many years ago. So because they used this altered state and they did some therapy. For example, I'm breathing and I experience something that kind of beyond my understanding, and I kind of get access to some energy, let's call it like that, psychic energy, I don't know, universal energy, or, it's metaphorical, but when I'm again coming back, so I use this kind of experience and it helps me to treat something. So this guy who was giving us some workshop with this shamanic technique, he just used these drums for us. We kind of get into this altered state, and then we did this journey into kind of, it's like an exercise, we kind of got into this altered state, and we were traveling to this world that kind of goes, that lies beyond, I mean, under reality, I don't know how to explain. So the other world, let's call it altered world. I mean, and but of course, from perspective of psychodynamic approach, this kind of, I kind of go into the unconscious, of course, in that sense. I mean, it was very popular, and usually people kind of describe this direction as separate, because you see anyway it's not only about unconscious, it's something that kind of beyond persona, trans. And with the help of these methods, so for example, we were traveling, and the idea was to find some answers on some question, and with this altered state, when I'm coming back to normal state, I can understand something that it gives me some resource to cure something. Understand?
Yes.
So now it's again the very two famous names. There are more, I'm absolutely sure, but I'm not a representative anyway. The Stanislav and Christina Grof. For example, we used one of the methods of this approach when we did treatment of drug addiction, because we also used this altered state. Because people who use drugs, with drugs they get into this altered state, and it's very easy, not easy, it's very difficult for them to refuse from this possibility that they have when they kind of have this experience, go beyond normal state, to access this experience that normal person without drugs can't usually get access to, and we used this in therapy when we invented some of the kind of therapeutic methods. So part of this was to kind of teach these drug addicts to get into this altered state, not with the help of drugs, but for example with the help of breathing. Yes, so it's like to change, this idea to use drugs, but to use maybe breathing, and then it's not so kind of dangerous for you. So it also has some therapeutic effect. Did you get it?
Yes.
Okay, last one, but it's not really common. I mean, sometimes now they talk about integrative direction, yes, in psychotherapy. So I'm absolutely sure you have heard this word, but I mean, you can understand the meaning, What does it mean, integrative?
Different directions.
Yes, it's like different directions. It's like integration of different directions. Yes, it's usually about psychodynamic approach, yes, and some, of course, they use altered state, and it was very popular again 20 years ago. I'm not sure about now. Now I think the common trend and fashion, it's phenomenology, if to talk about science. And we can even hear this word phenomenology in many schools we use now. So you were asking about Gestalt therapy, they now kind of use that we are phenomenological direction. So it's fashion and trend. Gestalt is also fashion and trend because it's allowed it's all for everyone. Any person can become Gestalt therapist without basic education in psychology, and it's a marketing step. Also, it's very kind of by price. We have to understand that to learn this direction, there are differences also in price. So Gestalt's are way in the middle, yes, of all the schools. But how do you think which one is the most expensive? No, CBT is not, by the way. CBT
Which
is
therapy
also
is most expensive?
yeah, to learn which direction to learn, because this is also the question.
Existential, I guess.
Existential, no.
Psychodynamic.
Yes, this one. Psychoanalysis. If to talk about this direction, psychoanalysis is the most expensive. I mean, there are many schools in this direction, but this is the most expensive. So in that sense, for example, if you, after you finish this master program, you really decide to be a therapist and you want to be certified, to get certification, you have to choose any of this direction, and then you have to pay some money because you have to learn, you have to do supervision, you have to do your own therapy, and then you will be you will get the certification, and then you can call yourself, I am representative of this direction. But it depends on the country, because I told you that here in Central Asia we still don't have the law that regulating this idea that now it's only the question of your moral ideas, if you can do it or not. But in other countries there is a law, so you can't do therapy without special certification, so you have to understand. But our subject name is counseling, I mean, but it's, how to say, anyway, the idea how I do counseling, if not to talk about certifications, another thing, but if to talk about counseling or therapy, it's like now, if you can, in that sense, define yourself to one of this direction, it will be a little bit easier for you to do this therapeutic process, because each of these direction has some definite techniques, yes? So the stages, for example, the same, yes? Idea, anyway, the same. We do this treatment with the help of relationship. But, I mean, technical things are different, or I use words, or I don't know, I use art therapy, or you give me free association, or I use, I don't know, breathing, trance, hypnosis, understand?
Yes.
So, but all of this, a kind of different way how we treat another person. Do you have any questions?
Integrative, can you tell a little bit more about integrative?
They usually integrate, as I told you, some schools, but most popular was Kozlov, I told his name. He, for example, now he still uses in his therapy understanding of personality from psychodynamic perspective, so he believes in unconscious. Yeah, he really loves Jung, but he uses some technique like movement and breathing and music, and when he does this things, it's like different techniques of psychotherapy, but it helps you to solve some problem. So it's some different, you see, but he is only one of the representatives. There are many. I mean, I don't know. He is very famous in Russian-speaking area because he was first one who tried to really develop this idea of transpersonal and integrative direction. But I'm absolutely sure there are more than in other countries. It's really important, by the way, the question you were asking me. Not literally about this, but all these directions, you have to understand, they were developed and they were invented in mainly in Europe. And then they, of course, Humanistic, as I mentioned before, yes, in America, okay, Arenbeck, of course, America, but originally, I mean, Psychodynamic, and when Arenbeck, he was psychoanalytical, he belonged to psychoanalytical approach, so what I'm trying to tell, so it's America and Europe. I mean, there are many other schools, like Otto Kyrgyzstan, for example, transfer and focus therapy. He was born in Vienna, and then he was living in Argentina, in Latin America. He's very, very popular now, but he has institutions in America. But in Russian-speaking countries, there were not any school or direction kind of developed. Because I mean, there are some schools, but they take the ideas from existential direction, yeah, from all this. And I'm not talking about Central Asia. I mean, here it's, of course, we have just representatives. We didn't invent any school here. Understand? Yes. Yeah, this kind of. But it's kind of also interesting about psychotherapy because it was invented in Europe, yeah, but before 10 centuries ago, for example, art therapy was in Arabic world already. It existed. Maybe because it's kind of different type of understanding reality, I think also, because if we are talking about psychotherapy, usually it's about something about, I don't know, cognition, education, yeah, something about some rational, I don't know, things. Because if you are connected to nature and connected with yourself, there is no need for therapy. Because everything kind of okay, so the world is. For example, I have many Arabic patients. Why I'm telling you these things? In Arabic countries, I mean, there are of course some psychotherapists, but it's not very common and popular in that sense. I mean, they ask for help, yeah, but it's very easy to work with them. And when they, for example, tell me how they usually help themselves, it's also with the help of nature. They tell, okay, I come there, I just look at the water, breathe in, breathe out, and it helps me to free. And the psychic, if I can, I mean, I didn't do any research, it's just my notification. But sometimes they kind of explain, it's like, it's very fast in psychic, I mean, process, they recover very fast. But if I work with a patient from Europe, it's like a lot of resistance. They say that it's like, it's very difficult to kind of do. I mean, it's not like difficult, but sometimes it's longer. Because, for example, Arabic world is like, okay, I'm ready. So just show me, and it's immediately the kind of, I kind of treat it. No, it's metaphorical. It's just if to talk about these things, you have to understand that it's like now here in Central Asia, in Eurasian continent, psychotherapy is still popular. But for example, in America, it's already not so popular as it was popular several even years before. Because now it's popular there, of course. Take medicine because they have some policy of farm companies, yes. And another thing, it's more popular the Eastern medicine. So it's not, now we see it's like everything is connected. Yeah, we use something that exists in East, yes, and okay, they're trying to integrate this. Okay, can we finish? Did you get it? Do you have any questions? Oh.